Now at 10, thousands of cattle have died from the heat in southwest Kansas. We're going to look at why it hasn't happened here. Plus, the latest in the search for a hit and run suspect out of Berry County, Missouri. And why some area bar owners feel it's important to provide a safe space for members of the LGBTQ community.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
We're in for another hot weekend and coming week. This is KOAM News at 10. Let's go straight to Chief Meteorologist Doug. First, look at the weather.
Yeah, the past 6 out of 7 days, we've been into the 90s. Even the day we didn't make it, we hit 89 degrees. So it's been hot, it's been humid. 95 today. 72 is where we started out. Average high is 87 degrees. But we had clear skies most of the day. We still have pretty much clear skies, no rain in sight, at least across the 4 state areas. We're dominated by this big dome of high pressure. Look at our temps. Still, we're sitting into lower 80s across the entire 4 state area. We even have a heat index, 85, upwards to 90 degrees. By morning, we'll drop back to about 73, 82 by 10, 90 during about the noon hour, 94 during the afternoon. Now, we do have some chances for thunderstorms tomorrow. We're going to break that down here in just a bit.
See you then. Industry officials say thousands of cattle in feedlots in southwest Kansas are dying of heat stress due to soaring temperatures, high humidity, and little wind in recent days. The final toll remains unclear, but as of yesterday, at least 2,000 heat-related deaths have been reported to the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. That number could rise as more losses from this week's heat wave are reported. Locally, it's not been an issue despite rising temperatures here.
Here in Crawford County, Lillibet County, this area, we don't have that type of operations. Most of our cattle are out on grass. They can get in ponds, under trees for shade. Out there, they're feed yards that may have 100,000 cattle under one in one location. Typically, they don't need shade. They don't need things like that because it's a different environment.
Kansas Governor Laura Kelly has directed state agencies to do everything they can to help those who lost cattle. The search for a hit-and-run driver heads into its 3rd night. The Missouri Highway Patrol is investigating a deadly crash in Berry County that killed a motorcyclist. 38-year-old Patrick Anderson of Aurora died at the scene. Warner has the latest.
Investigators say the suspect was driving a Chevrolet 2500 pickup truck.
The driver of the vehicle of the truck failed to yield for the motorcycle. That's when the collision occurred, and then the driver of the truck fled the scene.
The driver left on a bicycle, but officials are not sure where the bicycle came from. Authorities think the truck was stolen out of Monette since the registered owner of the vehicle was not the driver. Missouri Highway Patrol Sergeant Mike McClure says investigators are following up on leads at this time.
Division of Drug and Crime Control with the Missouri State Highway Patrol is assisting in that investigation and seeking witness statements, if any, that were available at the time of the crash.
Sergeant McClure says fortunately motorcycle crashes and fatalities are down from this time last year, but he says this is typically the time of year motorcycle crashes increase.
When you have motorcycles on the road, and particularly curvy rural roads and farm roads, it just requires extra vigilance for both operators of both types of vehicles.
McClure says as we approach intersections or just driving along the highway, we need to be looking out for motorcycles.
And also for motorcyclists themselves is to not travel in the blind spot of other vehicles and to be more readily recognized by wearing higher visibility clothing and using their lights.
Motorcyclist John Denny says drivers need to watch their speed and get rid of any distractions because it's easy to overlook a motorcycle. But he thinks safety is a two-way street.
We need to slow down sometimes and pay closer attention and keep our head on a swivel. It's easy to get distracted in today's times.
Authorities say if you know anything about that hit-and-run crash, you should call the Missouri Highway Patrol. Crowder College today announced a partnership between a local business and high school. The college is working with Cooper Gear and Manufacturing out of Anderson, Missouri for an apprenticeship program. Cooper Gear and McDonald County High School already have an apprenticeship program in place. Well, now those students will be able to continue that hands-on learning experience and development of skills while in college at Crowder.
We've been able to do with the apprenticeship program is work with the high school on getting juniors and seniors who want to work flex time. So they're coming in on the 1 to 9 in the evening shift, and it allows them to work in this type of industry as long as they're in a registered apprenticeship program.
Both Cooper Gear and Crowder College are registered Department of Labor apprenticeship programs. Cooper Gear has been registered since 2017, Crowder College since 2015. June is Pride Month. It recognizes the 1969 Stonewall riots fighting for LGBTQ rights in the U.S. Now it's more widely celebrated as a month to highlight the LGBTQ community. Locally, the Joplin area has many gay-friendly bars, and KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky spoke with owners on the importance of having these spaces in the community.
In 1969, Pride was a protest. The Stonewall riots helped start the gay rights movement. Now, it's a time of celebration when the world's LGBTQ communities come together to express their true self while also paying respect to Stonewall.
We've got our Blackthorn, one of our Blackthorn logos we do in the rainbow colors. We have some shirts we do in the rainbow colors and stickers, and we just really try hard to make sure that everyone does feel like they belong whenever they come in here.
While bars like Blackthorn are using this month to celebrate Pride, being a safe space for the LGBTQ plus community is something they do year-round.
We try to do drag shows and all kinds of LGBTQ friendly events all year long. I think it is really important to have a safe place, and not just for the LGBTQ community, but for women, for people of color.
They aren't the only space in Joplin emphasizing themselves as a space anyone can feel comfortable going to.
We have been here forever. It's just that we're now allowed to be ourselves in general public. If two same-sex people want to hold hands, whatever they want to do and walk down the street, they should not be shamed. They should be allowed the same rights. Just love everybody.
The Locker Room is one of Joplin's newest bars. The name comes from times in the locker room in school for anyone who may have felt out of place or still does.
We all had bad experiences in high school, and whether it was growth spurts or not growth spurts, everybody was trying to catch up or felt out of place. Now come back to the locker room, and say, hey, life is just as bad as it was back then, but I can have fun and laugh about what happened back then.
Their hope, like so many other gay-friendly bars in the area, is to make anyone wanting to come in feel comfortable doing so. In Joplin, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
Jomo Pride will take place in September. A local senior living community is getting a national honor. U.S. News and World Report published its list of the top 25 senior communities in the country, and the Wildwood in Joplin was on that list. In fact, it was rated the best independent living, assisted living, and memory care community. To celebrate, the community hosted a barbecue with live music and some good eats.
We have I believe that because we have just great residents, we have great staff, we have great family members, and we have the support of the Joplin community. So we are very blessed to have just all of those factors working in our favor.
The Wildwood is at 3002 South Joplin Duffy Drive in Joplin. Coming up, the latest on bipartisan gun reform talks in the Senate. Plus, Kroger and Walgreens recall more than 400,000 medication bottles over childproofing issues. Senators in Washington hope to have new gun legislation finished by the time they go on a 2-week break starting on July 4th. But finalizing that deal is proving to be difficult as lawmakers try to hammer out the details. Skylar Henry explains.
Texas Senator John Cornyn was booed during a speech to his state's Republican convention on Friday.
He's a traitor!
Many in the crowd are upset about his involvement in gun control negotiations back in Washington.
They're coming for your ARs.
Cornyn, a lead negotiator for the GOP, said he has no intention of taking guns away from law-abiding Americans.
Democrats pushed for an assault weapons ban. I said no. They tried to get a new 3-week mandatory wait period for all gun purchases. I said no.
Earlier this week, the bipartisan group announced a tentative deal that includes investments in mental health and school safety and enhances background checks for gun buyers under 21.
We have an obligation to take real and meaningful action.
But senators are struggling to come to an agreement on other issues, like how to close the so-called boyfriend loophole. It keeps guns away from those convicted of domestic violence, but only if they've been married to or lived with the victim or have a child with them.
There are no excuses.
First Lady Jill Biden, a teacher for nearly 40 years, urged parents and teachers at the National PTA Convention to speak up.
So Congress did not act after Columbine, after Sandy Hook, after Parkland. Nothing changed.
The bill does not contain some reforms that have the president's support, like bans on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Washington.
At least 10 Republican senators will need to support the package to overcome an expected GOP filibuster. The Consumer Product Safety Commission is recalling more than 400,000 medication bottles from Kroger and Walgreens. The bottles contain the pain relievers acetaminophen, ibuprofen, and aspirin. There's nothing wrong with the medication, but the bottles don't meet standards for child resistance. All the bottles are branded either Walgreens or Kroger. The specific bottles covered under the recall are listed on the CPSC's website as well as Kroger and Walgreens websites. A little bit later, we're going to check out an event giving area kids a close-up look at the creepy crawlies that live in the 4 states.
Plus a few thunderstorms back in the forecast. We're going to look at that coming up. Well, of course, another hot, humid day for us today. Mid-90s, we had heat indices 100 to about 105 at times. Quite a bit of sunshine still. We have clear skies right now. Nice shot. Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Indigo filling it up. Parking lots Friday night. Looks pretty good heading into the weekend. Temperatures, they're still kind of up there. Look at this. 81, Nevada. Cassville, 81. 80 in Miami. Pitt, 80. 81 in Yates Center. We still actually have a heat index. It still feels about 85, 87 degrees. Looking at 7th and Rangeline, sitting at 81. South winds at about 5. Humidity is at 77%. Clear skies, nothing going on here. Nothing popping up on the radar except ground clutter. The radar's in clear air mode, so it picks up on just about every little speck of dust out there. But the entire Central Plains, nothing going on. This is due to big dome of high pressure in charge. Until this moves out of here, we're going to have really the heat and the humidity sticking around. Let's go through time. During the overnight hours for us tonight, we drop back into the mid-70s. Clear skies, we look fine. We start to warm through the 70s and 80s. We'll stop at about the noon hour and upper 80s to near 90 degrees. As we go into the afternoon, we should warm about 93, 94 degrees. So if you're heading, Stockton Lake looks good. Table Rock, we're going to be dodging a few scattered thunderstorms. Grand Lake also dodging a few scattered storms during the afternoon. You can see a few popping up, especially in our southern counties, but I think this is only going to have coverage of maybe about 20% of the area as we get into tomorrow afternoon. 90 by noon, high temp 94, the winds are going to be light. Any scattered thunderstorms that do pop up, these will start to diminish once we lose the heating of the day. So after 8 or 9 p.m., so by 8:30, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, these are gone. Then pretty much clear skies as we go through the overnight hours tomorrow night. So we'll stop Sunday morning, sitting into the lower 70s. Let's go into Sunday. Of course, Sunday is Father's Day, and it looks great, even a little bit cooler. High temps only about 91, 92 degrees, which is hot, of course, but better than what we have seen, and plenty of sunshine as we go into Monday afternoon. Let's talk humidity, of course. The higher the humidity, the higher the heat index, the way it actually feels. So I think our heat indices are going to be about 100 to 105 tomorrow. So if you are going to be outside at the pools or the lakes, drink plenty of water, as of course you dehydrate much quicker when you get into the heat and the humidity. Heat indices a little bit better on Sunday. I think they're going to be kind of hovering right around 100 degrees. Temperatures stay into the 90s on Monday, low to mid 90s. Pushing upper 90s by the time we head into Tuesday. And then by Wednesday, finally, we get some chances for showers and thunderstorms at least a little bit more widespread. 94 tomorrow, 92 on Sunday, 93 on Monday, but it gets worse next week. We go mid to upper 90s, so we're talking about heat indices around 110. Oh. Yeah.
I didn't like it when you said that the heat index was going to be a little bit better because it was going to hover only around 100.
Yeah. Fun times.
I guess we need a break for sure. Hey, Lincoln Park in Pittsburgh was a little more crowded today despite the heat because of this petting zoo. The Pittsburgh Public Library hosted the event as part of their Oceans of Possibilities summer reading program. It featured all kinds of animals. You see some of them here, but there were also kangaroos and alpacas and camels and iguanas. That event was free and open to the public. The K-State Extension Office gave area kids a chance to explore some of the smaller forms of life, like insects. The group hosted an insect spectacular that featured two parts. The first was at Arnold's Greenhouse here near Leroy, Kansas, then at Chanute High School. Students learned the ins and outs of collecting, storing, identifying, and pinning insects for exhibit.
Learning more about how plants and insects kind of tie together. You really can't have one without the other. And so it's good to see them out actively engaged, interested, and learning.
That workshop's going to continue tomorrow. Still ahead, the Midwest Mustangs hit the field at Pitt State today, and the Outlaws aim for their first win against Nevada this summer. Danny Terzer has highlights up next.
Pitt State is hosting a baseball tournament. Two local teams hit the field early this morning for their first game of the weekend. The Midwest Mustangs kick off the tournament against Pittsburgh Post 64. Fast start for the Mustangs. Wyatt Foley shoots it through the gap for an RBI single. 4 runs score in the first. Later, Brett Sarwinski lays out to make the catch. That prevents a base hit and ends the inning. Mustangs extend their lead here. Eli Cheney drops one into shallow center. Logan Myers scores from second. It's 8-2. And then with the bases loaded, Cade Beshore gets a base hit. Foley scores. Cam Custer pitches a complete game and the Mustangs win game 1, 10-2. The Joplin Outlaws have a tough task tonight, facing the Nevada Griffins. Joplin has struggled against Nevada so far this summer. The Griffins have won all 3 of the matchups. Strong start for Joplin tonight on offense and defense. Outlaws turn the double play. They're second of the game in just the second inning. At bat now in the second, Cody Min finds grass in right center. That scores Joe Riccio, 3-0 Joplin. Then Carl Junction product Carson Johnson gets it to drop in space, brings Min in. Next inning, bases loaded, Sam Fagan steals home. Outlaws doing it all tonight. They put up 6 runs in the 6th and win it 14-2. Oklahoma plays their first game in Omaha for the College World Series today, facing Texas A&M. Sooners do damage in the second. Bases loaded for Blake Robertson. He singles to shallow center. 2 runs score. Then Jimmy Crooks blasts a 3-run shot to right. Oklahoma up 8-0. A&M gets a few back in the bottom half. Jordan Thompson responds with his own 3-run shot. But the Oklahoma offense just really dialed in today. 4th inning, it's a grand slam for Jackson Nicholas. Sooners win it 13-8. The St. Louis Cardinals spent the past week at home and won 5 of their last 7. They begin a road trip tonight facing Boston. The Cards rally for 4 runs in the 9th. Brendan Donovan drives in 2 to put the game within 1, but Boston hangs on to win the series opener 6-5. The Royals continue their West Coast road trip, beginning a series with Oakland tonight. Kansas City is up 3-1 in the 5th. Salvador Perez has an RBI double and a homer. That's a look at sports. We're back after this.
Take some time now to honor a local veteran. Burgess Tabor served in the U.S. Army from 1943 to 1945 during World War II. The Riverton, Kansas native was stationed in Italy, and we salute Corporal Burgess Tabor, a four-state hero. Scientists have found a group of polar bears living and thriving in a place that kind of surprised them. It's southeast Greenland. Researchers say these bears are genetically distinct and isolated from other polar bear populations. They're even isolated from sea ice, which is critical to the survival of most polar bears. Instead of using sea ice to capture seals, the study found southeast Greenland bears use nearby freshwater ice to hunt. Scientists believe the way the bears have adapted to their environment could give some insight into how the species could survive climate change. Greenland, of course, was ironically named Greenland because it's
never green.
Right, it's more of an Iceland sort of look. The weather is not going to be Iceland-like at all.
Ooh, it's going to be hot. You're going to want the ice as we go through the weekend, as temperatures are going to be into the low to mid 90s. Heat indices hovering right around 100 degrees. Some isolated thunderstorms tomorrow evening.
Final sports note.
It was a good night for a few local guys on the Outlaws, including Carson Johnson. He's a Carl Junction product. He drove in 3 runs tonight.
Good for him. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget your dad on Sunday, and let's make it a great weekend.
Service is provided by the